Hello everyone, welcome to a review for 1000 Times As This. Not something I do that often, but I really wanted to talk about this game. It's going to be pretty just casual, just me relaxing and talking about this game that I really enjoyed recently. So I did a quick harvest for this when I first started it. I played the first hour and a half on my channel, and the main thing I can say is there was a drive here. There was a draw immediately with how it presented its story. This is a game that not necessarily has the best in-game models or animations. It is a game that is limited to an extent that only an indie dev can be limited by. But those limitations, the things that hold it back, are basically null and void compared to everything else this game does. Music, direction, lighting, everything else is top tier. Better than a lot of AAA developers I've seen, at least in terms of story and how the game presents itself. There's a lot to say about this. We'll start off with a small non-spoiler segment. This is one of my favorite games this year. I wanted to play this last year, but I was kind of contemplating whether I was going to record it or stream it. And honestly, I felt that this was the best way of going about it. So 1000 Times As This follows a character called Waksha as they go through the memories of the person who made them, the All-Mother. They are a group of clones who are all made from the All-Mother. And as the game goes on, we unravel a mystery surrounding her past and the uninhabited world that has been taken over by the occupants. These strange alien life forms that wiped out humanity. The only people left are these clones of the All-Mother. And that's kind of like the summation of the plot, but from that point on, it branches out into the stratosphere in terms of what happens, and it's very difficult to talk about the plot without spoiling it. So instead I'll kind of base things here like the fact that the devs have a theatre background. One of the interesting things I found out about the development is basically this game came about because these are a group of people who worked in theatre who had to stop because of lockdown, because of COVID. And they ended up working on a game using their experience in terms of direction, lighting, how to frame a narrative in many different ways. This game actually has a lot of similarities to a game I played last year called Devotion. Devotion is a game that followed a Chinese family, how their relationship fell apart because of illness, because of work ethic, and how a father tried to bring back his daughter through a ritual. It was a scary game. This is definitely not a horror game. I would say, unlike Devotion, this is probably a more, it's easier to approach this one, I think, compared to that. So with that in mind, when it comes to how this game presents itself, one of the things I always look for in a walking simulator, which I think this game does fall into, there's a bit of gameplay here and there. You fly around on these orbs in a couple of cutscenes. There are choices as well in the game, but for the most part, it's you wandering around sandboxes and talking to people. The game does not have that much in terms of gameplay, but it doesn't need it, because the story is that good. So with that basis of this, with that understanding, the way the game tells its story, each chapter feels entirely different. Like one chapter will tell it top down, one chapter will have you be in first person, another will be through a series of memories you go through but out of order, and then at the end you can watch them in order. The concepts, the mechanics this game has are all used in very interesting ways, and they are fully explored to the extent of their ability. There's a chapter entirely based around that warping mechanic I talked about earlier. There's a part in the game where you need to use your memory recall to get a key card so you can access important lore. There are so many ways the game goes about telling its narrative that it just maintains its enjoyment. And I think that's something else that's worth noting. The story itself is very good. There's a lot of mysteries they keep hidden from you, and after a replay, you definitely notice, oh, they foreshadowed this from the beginning. Ha! It's a very clever game when it comes to how it handles memory. and not necessarily teasing the audience of mysteries that are never going to get resolved with more mysteries. They actually give you answers. They tell you basically everything you want to know about the plot. And I think in that regard, that makes this game a lot more approachable than, say, a FNAF, a Five Nights at Freddy's, or one of those types of games, which are just mystery boxes that become even greater mystery boxes. Even Everhood 2, a game that I finished literally today, is one of those games where it's a mystery box that constantly opens up the more mysteries. This game's narrative, it treats the audience with respect. A lot of respect. There is the dialogue, everything you can understand. I loved, one of my favourite parts of the early game is that there are, because we're in this culture all devoted to the All-Mother, this human who had the ability to clone themselves with their hair, they have all these different phrases to worship her or to embrace her, like hair to hair, red to blue, sphere to square, and like, I want to kind of add those to my own vocabulary because I kind of love them. So yeah, great characters. I think that they're very multi-layered. As you go through the story, you find out more about it. It unravels in a very satisfying way, and it's a beautiful experience. It's a longer form walking simulator. We don't want to play a game that's going to be around 10 to 12 hours. Maybe keep this on a back burner until you want to play something that long. But yeah, the way this game is framed, how it's directed, is fantastic. No notes. Okay, we're going to get into spoilers now. So if you don't want spoilers for 1000 Times Resist, we can talk about that. Oh, well, I would say leave the video now. So, this game subverts your expectations in the best possible way. The whole narrative, the whole structure of the game is, it lies to you. It doesn't lie to you. Well, it's all like a package, basically. Everything you experience from one point to another point is all memories being given to another character. So you play as a character called Watcher, or at least you think you play as a character called Watcher in the first 7 or 8 chapters. And then a certain event occurs where you kill the All-Mother, and then you're not playing as them anymore. I saw something online that the next chapter is meant to invoke Kingdom Hearts 2 in the beginning of that game, how you don't know where you are, what place you're in, but then it explains itself to you. You're playing as this other character who has all the memories of Watcher because that's her role, to watch things. And those memories are then like, oh, okay, so these are things that I needed to know to get to this place and to create a society where everyone can live happily. It's a game that teaches you about the importance of memories, but also the importance of not keeping every single memory. There's a great line, there's a bunch of great lines in this game, but there's a great line towards the end, which is also by the beginning as well, one of the earlier chapters, where not everything is going to fit in the backpack. You can take everything with you if you leave home or move out and go along your path. There are lessons that you can take, and there are lessons that you have to leave behind. And that's a very realistic output when it comes to understanding this like that. You're not gonna make everyone happy. You're not going to make everyone in the world entirely happy. You're not going to make all the worshippers of the All-Mother happy. You're not going to make all the people who want a government happy, or people who want the old ways back. So the game's ending being based in choosing the memories to keep. And by the way, if you choose to keep all the memories, you get punished for it. It's not like you get a bad ending and that's it. No, if you choose to keep all memories, it loops you back to where you got to choose again. It's a game that like punishes you for, trying to get everything, trying to save everyone, and that's wonderful. It's so refreshing to play a game that's like, no, this is you can't just pussyfoot out here. You got to actually put the work in. And work out what's worth keeping. And there's other things as well, like during the ending, I ended up getting punished for not wanting to save the Zhao clones. Basically, the Zhao clones being these clones created from Iris's friend, who ended up basically becoming slaves to the Zhao, to the Irises, I didn't want to save them because the rebellion that would have occurred, the endless cycle of violence, I felt like would be too much for a future where both clones could exist. But no, you have to save them, otherwise you get a bad ending where your character Blue realizes that they didn't keep their promise to one of these Zhao clones. There's a lot to understand and unpack from the story here, but the main thing is I just love how the story is told. It is so satisfying. As I mentioned before, one of my favorite chapters in the game follows Watcher and her interrogation, and all of the memories you watch here are out of series. Every single one of them. And you can watch it all together at the end, but even though they are out of series, they still make sense in the context. Everything you're watching makes sense. And I think that one in particular ends with probably my favorite sequence in the game, where there's a lot to talk about here, but I'm going to talk about a few things and then probably call it there. The one thing that I was worried about with this is that it was going to lead too much into the, the realistic family household aspect of family life, personal, emotions and feelings. But all of that with Iris's family, the mother and father, was wonderful. Really well executed. In a game that has a lot of sci-fi elements, and you might have an audience who wants to see more of the sci-fi than the boring interpersonal plot between a mother and a child, and the story about how they left Hong Kong because of riots occurring. It's all important. All this information that we learn from the game is an important message to keep along. And one of the great things about the ending is this is not something carried forward. The whole idea of moving on, not looking behind, and not thinking about the past, you drop that because it's not a healthy mindset. The game even acknowledges that. It just shows that these are flawed characters who made flawed decisions, and you understand why they have to go through that. The only endings that actually count in this game are towards a character called Principal, who has done a very bad thing, but because of how the narrative tells itself, you understand how they got there, and then you can choose to forgive them or not. If you choose not to, then they'll be erased. If they choose to, then they will not be erased, and they have a different ending depending on which one you go with there. But as I mentioned before, my favorite moment in the game is when they just play a video which showcases the memories of Hong Kong, or at least a city where these people left home. And as they show the image of it, and as it becomes more blurry, all you can see are a couple of colours on there. The same colours that the clones take. And I was just floored. I was like, such simple storytelling, using actual footage of the city, and then blurring it. This is not something that any creator or storyteller would do. It shows an exceptional level of understanding the craft, and showing we have faith that just doing this one thing will be enough to make the audience emotional, and it worked. I was like, damn, this game is making me sad. What else do I want to say? I really enjoyed the Occupant storyline. I liked the fact that the occupant that remains, or the one that remains on the planet, turns out to be kind of stupid. Once you finally translate them and go through the whole metaphor minigame, and you speak to them with Secretary, you just kind of find out at the end that, I just wanted to stay behind to, commune with you all because I like this one particular human. That's the only reason why Iris survives. It's not because she's immune, but because the occupants didn't want to kill her. Or this one particular occupant didn't want to kill her. And basically, at the end, it's no, you need to get out of here, and then you need to leave, because you're just causing more problems by being on this planet. Honestly, massive Outer Wilds vibes from the Occupant storyline. Earlier on in the game, where you find out more about them, they have these puzzles where you need to break through a door. And the way to do that is you need to answer questions from the occupants, because the occupants do not understand human language. They don't know how to speak it. They speak in metaphors. The one that remains, that kind of, it's kind of difficult to remember them off the top of my head, considering this review is very just me just unloading all the things from this game. But the one that remains, the weave, the not loosens, the not tightens, the good kids go, the bad kids stay. Another great line. There's so many in this game. I want this game to be like lauded in the same way that Signalis was, because those two games have very similar like presentation styles when it comes to their story. Yes, one has a lot more gameplay, but this one is pretty damn good, chat. Pretty damn good time. But as I said, the characters are wonderful. I love the main group. So Healer, Noah, BB, Watcher, Principal, Fixer. They all get a lot to do. A character does not, like, one of the characters not getting a lot of screen time. Every single character gets a bunch to do. Particularly, I think my favorite was probably Noah, just because you understand her reasoning. She's a very flawed person, but the way her mindset works and how she's like, well, I need to survive no matter what, even though, like, some of the stuff I have to do is bad, I'm doing it so that I can survive and one day, hopefully, see a better future. I think forgiving her was quite an easy thing to do because I understood where she was coming from, and because you spend a lot of the early game with these 5 characters, you end up wanting to root for them a lot more. Which I think is the point, because you don't spend as much time with the provincial government, which is my only minor flaw with this game, is I wish the provincial government were given a little bit more time to be fleshed out. You are kind of thrusted into their world, which is also part of the point. It's not bad. It's a different way of approaching it. I don't mind how they did it, but I think I would have liked it to be done in a little bit more approachable way, where you spend a little bit more time with the ministers, understanding their mindsets, and then leading to the terrorist event. I think that would have been more interesting. But then again, that's not the point. The point is showing that through limited knowledge and understanding, you get enough information about these societies to understand more about them, but that's about it. That's all you really get. You don't get a whole lot. You just get enough to understand what's going on here. And I think if the game went any longer than it needed to, it would have probably been a problem. But what else do I want to talk about? The music is good. As you can hear right now, we got some excellent music in this game. Really good music. As I said before, presentation, the way they tell the visuals, every single chapter feels different. The choice at the end with all the memories. I like that the final boss is a countdown, where they didn't like make a actual big boss fight against a giant occupant. You have to get to the top of the area by flipping between the nodes. That's how you get up there. But I think that's it in terms of what I want to say. I really had an amazing time with this. It's difficult to find big story games that I can get invested into. Recording wise, I tend not to record everything I play because I don't have time to record everything I do. It's a bit of a difficult thing to really muster, to have the power and energy to record all the things I want to play. Like, I'm doing a Suikoden series without recording it, because I think I'm going to have more fun that way, where I'm not constantly having to think about giving commentary, reacting to the smallest things that occur in the game. Thousand Time Abyss was a special game this year, though. It's definitely going to be high up in my rankings of what I've played this year. And I hope more people hear about it. Like, same with Nine Souls that came out last year, or In Stars and Time. Beautiful story, told extremely well. I hope that this gets a massive fan base. I hope the devs continue making games. I want to see what else they can do with their style. Their style is so enriching and interesting. I can't wait to see what it's going to be. But that's it for now. Hope you all enjoyed this review. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.